Welcome to another installment of Monday Q&A. I hope you've all had a great weekend. Thank you to everybody who submitted a question for this week's video. If you would like me to answer one of your questions, simply put it in the comments section below. And as always, a massive shout out to all the amazing people who support me over on Patreon and to everybody who has gone and checked out the Ragdoll back catalog online and bought some merch and music, as well as all of you amazing subscribers. We just ticked over 88,000 on the channel. Again, consistently mind-blowing. The fact that people keep coming back and watching these videos only gives me more desire to get better at what I do. And I really appreciate it as well. I do mean that. I say it all the time, but I can't stress it enough. So if you're sitting there watching this, thank you very much. I'm going to try to get to some of your questions as well. I just want to start as well by saying RIP to Bernie Marsden. We did a video a couple of weeks ago talking about my favorite Whitesnake guitar players, and Bernie is right up there with my favorites. So I was quite saddened to hear of his passing. I really have a deep appreciation for the early Whitesnake albums, that kind of blues-based sound that they had going on. Not only do I really like David Coverdale's vocals and what the rest of the band are doing there, but Bernie's songwriting and his really underrated singing as well shines on all of those. So go and crank the Live in the Heart of the City live album if you don't know what I'm talking about. If you like guitar-based music, there's definitely going to be something in there. And from everything that I have heard and seen in interviews, Bernie seemed like a real gentleman as well. So rest in peace, Bernie Marsden. I'm going to crank some more Whitesnake today as well. Do I have any interest in doing a day in the lifestyle video here on the channel? As always, like I was saying in the intro, if people want to see that kind of stuff, I am more than happy to cater what I do here on the channel to what people want to see. So I don't think it would be super interesting. Most weekdays, I'm sitting here, either playing guitar, recording stuff in Pro Tools, or editing videos in Resolve. Like to play with the cats, like to hang out with my wife when she's not working as well. So a typical Monday, not really that interesting. And then when it kind of comes to weekends and gigs and things like that, I wouldn't really say there is a typical day, but there are some more gig vlogs coming up. I know people dig those, so I'll do a few more of those. But I'm kind of interested. What's your daily routine like? Why don't you let me all know in the comment section below, because I'm sure we all feel like our daily routine may be a bit boring, but I'm sure no two people have the same routine, and that probably applies to things like practicing guitar and when you get a chance to play. So feel free to let me know in the comments section below, and if you are interested in that kind of day in the life video, that might be a fun one to do, maybe in place of a Monday Q&A, or maybe in place of something else later in the week. I'd love to know. I did a video a couple of weeks ago talking about my studio rack that I've got here that I built around a UA interface, my Axe effects, a switchblade, and some really tasty vintage rack effects. Money was no object, and I didn't have to cart this stuff around, but I could only have one between an Axe effects, or say an FM9, FM3, and then the rack with all the fun vintage stuff in it. What would I go with? I'm still gonna go with the Axe. The fact that that thing not only is so powerful and so convenient, the fact that it just sounds incredible. While the vintage rack effects definitely have their own character, and I have them because they can be super inspiring, I find that the things that I personally dig, the things that are inspiring that I get out of the Axe effects, are super inspiring, because not only is the amp modeling incredible, the effects are stellar, and there's so many fun creative effects in there. It's also incredibly useful. I find it really easy to set up, and most importantly, I find it is a fast unit to work on. I can set up a tone in less than 5 minutes most of the time and be really happy with it. Whereas some of the vintage rack stuff that I have, it takes multiple minutes just for these things to power on and load up their presets, and then you've got to figure out how to route them in a way that minimizes the noise. Sometimes, the power is particularly dirty on a particular day and they're noisy, or, they just don't integrate perfectly with what you're trying to do. So while they are inspiring in their own right, that comes with a tax, as friend of the channel Michael Toran would say. Sometimes it's convenience, sometimes it's reliability, whereas I find the modern fractal stuff is just rock solid. Speaking of finding your own voice, this one comes from friend of the channel Neil. Wolfgang Van Halen. Does Wolfie deserve respect in his own right as an artist? Absolutely. In fact, I think it's even more amazing that Wolfgang's actually out there putting out records, singing, playing. He can play drums like a beast, because you forget not only is his dad Eddie Van Halen, his uncle is Alex Van Halen as well. And I don't buy too much into the oh, it's in your genetics or anything, but being brought up in an environment with people like that around you and with music around you, it's going to be inevitable that, at some point you have a crack at it. And people forget that Wolfie's got that experience of playing bass and touring the world at a really young age and just being around fantastic musicians for so long. And he's put in the work. You cannot deny that he's put in the work. And I actually kind of like his voice even more than his guitar playing or anything like that. I think he's got a fantastic rock and roll voice. Good on him, because it would be very, very difficult having Eddie Van Halen as your dad, Alex Van Halen as your uncle, to come out and try to put out some records on your own. And I know a bunch of people who watch the channel have gone and seen Wolfie play live, and they've been really, really impressed. So you have to respect that, regardless. The guy's putting in the work. He's going out there, he's playing music, he's creating new music. This is all positive stuff. And, tabloid media, and in particular, guitar media, has reverted to this. If you look at the popular guitar websites that are out there, it's just crap tabloid media with horrible headlines, and, they're going to pick up on all the usual kind of celebrity musician stuff. So the easiest way to enjoy it is to not consume the tabloid stuff and go and actually consume the music, because anyone who's putting themselves out there and actually producing new music, I have to tip my hat to. So yeah, I'd love to see Wolfgang play live. Seems like he's a pretty decent dude as well. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Have you got the new record? Did you enjoy it? I thought it kind of sounded like Foo Fighters mixed with a bit of modern Van Halen, and even, like a little bit of Alter Bridge and things like that thrown in there. I dig it. I'm going to read this next one verbatim. It comes from a longtime viewer and subscriber, Rumi. Question for Leon. Regarding learning by ear, do you learn the harmonic content but apply your own fingerings, picking approaches, and so forth? Or do you strive to match the recorded performance as much as possible? They give a few examples of those big stretches someone like Warren DeMartini might do, or John Sykes's absolutely mental alternate picking. And they kind of mention that, they'll set out to recreate the part as best as they can, but sometimes the guitar police, the fun police, come along and say you're doing it wrong. For me, it is more about capturing the underlying concepts than recreating the physical performance more than anything else. When I learn a piece of music by ear, it's because I really like the piece of music. As a piece of music, I don't so much think about it in terms of how it works on the guitar until I sit down and learn it. And then one nice thing about learning stuff by ear is the guitar is one of those instruments where you can play the same note in multiple places. If you're playing a piano piece, for instance, and you want to play a middle C, there's one place to play that middle C. That's not the case on the guitar. So there are going to be fingerings that make sense for the way you play or the way that I play, and they're not necessarily the same. Now, there are instances where it does matter. For example, if it's very clearly an open string, and that kind of open string tonality has a real twang to it that can kind of make or break the part, versus a fretted note, that definitely plays into it. But, as a general rule, I will just go for getting the notes right and trying to work on the musicality of it and trying to make it sound good and make it my own. I think that's where true creativity lies with music. Music it's an oral tradition, right? We make a bunch of noise in a particular way, in a particular context, and we pass that on and we interpret it and reinterpret it. That's the beauty of it. And the interpretive skills are easy to overlook. And, you can have, say, for example, blues in the 50s, and then blues in the 60s, and then blues in the 70s, and it's all still blues, but there are going to be changes that come into it. That's the fun part of it. It changes as a musical tradition. So I think most of the cool stuff I've ever come up with in my life has been because I've been playing something else wrong. I had a comment on the channel not too long ago. I've done some videos about, the wrong way to play Unchained or Lay It Down. And someone kind of made a comment to the effect of, why would anyone want to learn how to do it the wrong way? And my argument to that would be that, well, that's where creativity lies. It's actually approaching things maybe in an unorthodox manner or just coming at it from outside the square. So yeah, don't let the guitar police or the fun police ruin your experience on the instrument. I think finding your own voice is the most important thing with all of this. This one comes from longtime viewer and commenter Corey. Do I think it would be cool to play 80s shred style music on 60s surf guitars like Mosrites? I think that would be super awesome. In fact, one thing that I really like about Paul Gilbert in Racer X and in later years is that, Paul was playing those Epiphone coronets, or coronets, however you say that, which are almost the antithesis of, the RG style super strat that was super popular at the time. So I think Paul's a really good example that you can just kind of go out and make music on anything that you like. I always think about the Troy Grady cracking the code stuff as well. And, Troy's not playing a super strat or a, kind of ESP or Ibanez. I'm fairly certain he's playing like a short scale Fender on a lot of it, which I think is super cool. And he makes that sound amazing. All the picking mechanic stuff has been so helpful for me, but you just hear Troy's vibrato and his attack on there, and he's a phenomenal player. So yes, Corey, I think that would be super awesome, and I think you should go and do it if you dig it. Signature wah pedals, what have I tried and what do I think about them? I have tried the Dime wah, but it was a long time ago. I actually don't remember too much about it. I know the Petrucci wah is based on the Rat Crybaby, and you've kind of got those wah EQ settings in there. I thought that's one really, really cool aspect of that. And the wah block in the Axe Effects now has a graphic EQ in there. That was a request that came about because a bunch of people, myself included, were trying to match John's wah sound in there. It's really, really cool. The one that I think has impressed me the most is the Jerry Cantrell wah. Basically, the maximum frequency in the sweep is a lot lower on the Cantrell wah, and it just kind of sounds fat and mean. I've never tried the Slash or the Kirk Hammett wah or anything like that, but essentially it's a very, very similar thing. You just kind of fine tune the bottom part of the sweep and the top part of the sweep, and some of them are going to be really extreme and they're going to give you like a big sweep in there, and others are going to be a lot more subtle. I tend to like the more subtle sweeps in there. So if I was going to grab like a signature Crybaby, I'd probably get the Jerry Cantrell one or the Petrucci one because you can kind of fine tune it with the EQ. But yeah, I really, really like all of them. Wah is good. Wah is great. Wah is the ultimate cheat code on guitar, as you're going to hear at the end of this clip. That's it for this week's video. Again, if there are questions you would like me to answer on next week's video, simply put them in the comment section below. There are links to support my channel in the video description. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Take it easy, go listen to some Whitesnake this week.